It's often said that the best lessons in life, the really deep wisdom, well, it doesn't always come from a book, does it? Or some guru. Sometimes it comes straight from our own experiences, especially maybe our mistakes. So today we're doing a deep dive into this really interesting personal memoir called Learn from My Mistake. Our mission here is to try and pull at some insights, see how those very early experiences we have can, sometimes subtly, sometimes powerfully, shape our whole approach to things like risk and ambition and even how we define success for ourselves.
Yeah, and what's really compelling about this one, I think, is the author himself. He's very clear up front. He's not positioning himself as some kind of expert. He's just a guy who, looking back at 75, feels he's learned something vital from, and these are his words, profound mistakes and financial missteps.
Right.
He basically says, look, the best lessons, they're forged in the fires of our worst blunders, which, immediately tells you you're getting wisdom earned the hard way. Through hindsight, makes it pretty relevant for you listening.
Absolutely. That retrospective angle is key. Okay, so let's get into it. To understand those mistakes, we need to understand where he came from. He talks about this golden cage of his childhood, describes growing up in a home built on predictable rhythms, unquestioned certainties.
Sounds safe.
Exactly. His dad was a meticulous accountant, his mom a homemaker. Their life was all about prudence. Every single decision, he says, was a carefully calculated step. And at first, he was the obedient child, did well in school, always chose the safe route. Seems like a solid foundation, wouldn't you say?
On the surface, absolutely secure, but sometimes that very security can, breed its own kind of pushback, can't it? For him, the big turning point, the catalyst he calls it, was this conversation around the dinner table. His father was explaining savings, compound interest. You know the drill. It's a marathon, son, not a sprint.
Ah, the classic advice.
The classic. Put your money in, you leave it alone, and it grows. That's the way to build a life. No risks, no worries. But what's really striking is the author's reaction. This advice, totally well meant, designed for safety. It triggered something visceral in him. He says something inside me recoiled.
Recoiled, wow.
Yeah. He felt that slow and steady wasn't just a strategy, it was like a sentence to a life lived in beige. He craved something more exciting, something that didn't just grow, but soared.
That's such a critical moment, and he actually calls this internal reaction, this quiet resentment, his first mistake.
Yeah.
Which is fascinating, right? It suggests that our first big misstep isn't always an action, but maybe a reaction. This hidden rebellion against the wisdom we inherit, setting us off on a different path without really examining why.
Exactly.
He took in his parents' rules, but underneath he resented them. He started seeing their carefulness not as wisdom, but as a cage, even saw it as a weakness. And he formed this belief deep down that real success wasn't about slowly building wealth. No, it was about the bold, decisive gamble.
And you can see immediately how that shaped his ambition, right? His heroes shifted. They weren't the steady types anymore. They were the entrepreneurs who made millions overnight, the stock market whizzes, people who made it big, fast. So this cemented what he calls an untested belief in the power of a single, bold move.
Untested, that's the key word.
Totally. He basically became, in his own words, a budding gambler, building his future, this house of cards, on, faith and ambition that hadn't really been stress-tested by reality. For you listening, you can probably see the confirmation bias kicking in hard here. He's looking for evidence that supports his new philosophy.
Yeah, absolutely. And the irony is just, it's so potent. This golden cage his parents built to keep him safe. It ended up preventing him from experiencing the small storms, the manageable failures that might have actually prepared him. He says because he never truly failed, he was completely ill-equipped for the unforgiving lessons life was about to teach him. How does that work? That lack of early, maybe smaller failures, making you more vulnerable later, not less.
It's a paradox, isn't it? That protective bubble, while comforting, starved him of resilience. It starved him of the judgment you only really develop by, messing up a bit and learning from it. It's like learning to swim only in the shallow end and then suddenly finding yourself in the deep ocean. You just don't have the skills.
That's a great analogy.
And the memoir really pushes us, and you listening, to think, could the very things designed to protect us sometimes leave us the most exposed when the real tests come along?
It really does make you reflect. So we've sort of unpacked this core tension he lived with, that inherited prudence clashing with this youthful hunger for big, fast success, and how that internal battle really set the stage for the mistakes and the lessons that came later.
Exactly. And maybe the final thought for you listening to this is to consider your own foundations. What core beliefs about risk, about reward, about success might you be holding on to? Beliefs may be formed in your own golden cage or perhaps in rebellion against it. Beliefs that are perhaps just waiting for life to put them to the test.